Welcome to this explainer. Look, today we're jumping straight into a hidden force that literally affects every single one of us, whether we realize it or not. We're looking at how math quietly sits in the background of your life, doing one of two things. It is either actively destroying your financial future, or it's steadily building it. There is absolutely no middle ground here. Ultimately, the difference between going completely broke and building lasting wealth comes down to understanding exactly how these numbers work.
Okay, let's dive right into this. 25%. And no, that's not some made-up theoretical number. This was the actual APR, the interest rate on a car loan signed by a young woman for a 2018 Honda Accord. When she was asked why in the world she bought a car she couldn't afford at such a wildly predatory rate, her answer was simply, it was cute. But the math doesn't care if it's cute. That car ended up getting repossessed, completely destroying her credit score and leaving her owing over $7,000 on a vehicle she will literally never drive again.
And that brings us to a central question you have to ask yourself. So what actually happens when your money works against you? It's basically a tale of two cycles. On one side, you've got this compounding cycle of predatory debt, where interest just feeds on itself and drags you under like a riptide. But on the other side, you have the compounding cycle of lasting wealth, where your money quietly multiplies while you sleep. We're going to unpack just how insanely easy it is to fall into that first cycle and exactly how you can transition into the second.
Well, one of the fastest ways to get dragged into that debt cycle is through something called lifestyle creep. Specifically, this is when you increase your spending today to match some imaginary future salary. Take this 18-year-old who financed a $46,000 Jeep. She basically convinced herself she was going to be rich one day, so she just started spending like she already was. The reality? She is out there hustling, doing food delivery on the side just to keep up with a $1,200 monthly payment for the car and the warranty. She's starting every single month completely in the red. Now, what's absolutely fascinating, and honestly a bit terrifying, about this slide is a quote from a borrower who finally realized the brutal truth of debt. They said, "Past you spent the money, current you pays the bill." That hits the nail on the head. That is exactly how predatory debt works. Every single dollar of interest you pay to a bank or a lender is a dollar your future self earned, went to work for, and never actually got to touch. Your future paycheck, it's already spent before it even hits your bank account.
And hey, if any of this is starting to feel a little personal, statistically speaking, you are in very crowded company. Americans are currently sitting on a record $1.28 trillion in credit card debt, and roughly 60% of cardholders are carrying a balance month to month at an average rate of around 20%. To put that into perspective, these balances are aggressively snowballing out of control. The debt doesn't care about your feelings, your intentions, or your stress levels. It just mathematically compounds.
We see this toxic snowball effect so clearly in the story of a nurse who had a really great salary but still ended up tens of thousands of dollars in debt. She was financing designer purses just to project this image of success online. But she realized, a bit too late, that using high-interest debt to fund a lifestyle is a mathematical trap. Her stark advice to everyone else? Stop using buy now, pay later apps. Just stop. Because years later, there's a good chance you could still be paying 25% interest on a purse you bought 4 years ago.
You'll often hear this phrase floating around social media. Money is energy. The more you put out, the more comes back. Actually, scratch that. The numbers tell a very different story. Money is math. When you ignore the math, you end up in what's called a debt lasagna. This whole shebang happens when a desperate buyer rolls negative equity from an old car into a brand new car loan and then puts the entire down payment on a high-interest credit card. That's 3 layers of compounding interest rapidly destroying your net worth. It's a disaster.
And you know what makes this debt trap even more dangerous? It's realizing how exposed most people actually are. A staggering 75% of people do not have an emergency fund. They are relying entirely on a single monthly salary without any kind of safety net. That leaves you completely exposed to the modern realities of life, right? Things like sudden corporate layoffs, rampant inflation eating away at your purchasing power, unexpected medical emergencies. If that single salary stops, the financial crisis begins immediately.
So, the absolutely crucial point here is that you must build a mathematical shield to stop this 25% APR debt cycle from ever starting in the first place. And it's really just 3 steps. Step 1. Calculate your absolute monthly essentials. We're talking rent, groceries, basic bills. Step 2. Multiply that exact number by 6 so you have 6 months of life covered. Step 3. Keep that money in liquid funds, like a high-yield savings account. Seriously, do this before you make any fancy investments or buy a new car.
All right, let's pivot and look at the bigger picture for a second. The mechanics of wealth destruction and wealth creation are actually exact opposites.
The debt trap relies on borrowing money for depreciating assets at something like a 25% interest rate that works endlessly against you. The wealth cycle, on the other hand, relies on passive compounding, low fees, and building systems that generate money for you, whether you're actively working or not. Math works both ways. You just have to choose the right side.
To really see how you can build systems that work for you instead of for the banks, let's look at Karan and Mahesh. Both guys had capital to invest. Karan went all in and opened his flashy premium cafe with fancy lights and an Instagram wall, constantly chasing those one-time sales. Mahesh? He started an unglamorous B2B business with just 3 employees and some service contracts. Fast forward 3 years, Karan is exhausted standing in his empty cafe waiting for customers. Mahesh, he's chilling on a holiday in Goa, just receiving automatic payment notifications on his phone.
Mahesh's success comes from operating what we like to call boring businesses. Think commercial cleaning, pest control, vending machines, or even things like commercial laundry, equipment rental, RO water ATMs, and micro sauce software. So, what do these all have in common? Well, they definitely aren't glamorous. You are for sure not going to see them flexing on social media. But they solve urgent daily problems for clients, and they rely heavily on contracts that generate passive income while the owners sleep.
And this brilliantly illustrates a core mathematical advantage, one of the golden rules of wealth: recurring revenue. Look, when you sell a product once, you have to wake up the next day and find a brand new customer all over again. But with recurring revenue, you acquire a customer once and they pay you again and again and again, every single month. Whether it's a cleaning contract for a hospital or a monthly software subscription, recurring revenue is simply one of the most powerful mathematical tools in business.
But hey, maybe you don't even want to start a business, right? You don't have to. You can transition to the stock market to tap into this kind of automated wealth using an index fund. An index fund is just a passive investment that automatically copies a specific list of the market, like the top 50 or top 500 companies. It doesn't require some highly paid team in suits to constantly buy and sell stocks. It just rides the overall growth of the market, automatically compounding your wealth year after year.
Let's move on and see how this builds. Because the incredible advantage of index funds really comes down to one massive thing: the fees. An index fund might charge you just 0.05% a year. An actively managed mutual fund could charge you 1.50% or even more. Just like a 25% credit card rate destroys your everyday finances, high fees from active fund managers secretly destroy a massive portion of your compounding returns over a 10-year period. This is exactly why legendary investors like Warren Buffett recommend low-cost index funds for the average person. You want to keep your money compounding for you, not for the fund manager. So what does this all mean for us? We've seen how the true cost of a 25% auto loan can totally sink you, and how a low-cost index fund or a recurring revenue business can set you free. Ultimately, it all comes back to the math. So I want to leave you with a final provocative question to reflect on today. Look at your bank statements, look at your debts, and look at your investments. Which side of the compounding equation are you on right now? Is your money working for you, or is it working against you? Take control of the math, and I promise you, you will take control of your life.